Hey, everybody, we're live. I'm Kenneth from Grace Online, welcoming you to the second session in sort of a series. I don't know how long the series is going to be, but it seems like we're talking along a specific direction, which is something that's very interesting. And so today's the second sort of discussion or share, just me sharing my heart and sharing some ideas with you guys about reclaiming healthy sexuality. So I think yesterday we talked about harmful teachings about sex within Christianity. Um, and today we're going to focus on how these teachings can create feelings of guilt and shame, and more importantly, how we can overcome these barriers to experience true intimacy, as well as connection, obviously, in our marriages. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So guilt and shame around sex are emotions that many of us have grappled with. Guilt and shame, emotions that we are grappling with. Yeah, absolutely. I think many people in church do. So often do these teachings that we have received brings about these feelings of guilt and shame. So these feelings can obviously be super, super powerful and damaging. Guilt and shame can be super powerful and extremely damaging. And they obviously has a massive impact in our self-esteem, in our relationships, and in our ability to experience intimacy. So if intimacy, and that is closeness, emotional closeness into me, you see, if that is the point of sexual intimacy, then is the message that we are teaching as church facilitating that space of intimacy, or is it contrary to it? So I'm not saying the message is like directly wrong. I'm just saying how we are bringing this message causing the very thing that we don't want to happen. So let's explore why this happens and how we can begin to heal from this. So let's understand first the roots of this guilt and shame. So I think vast majority of Christian teachings emphasizes purity and chastity in a way that can lead to intense feelings of guilt and shame about sex. So obviously, from a young age, all of us, or most of us in church, has been taught that sex is something to be avoided until marriage. Guys, and hear me out. I'm not saying that this is wrong. I'm just asking the question, how is the message that sex is something to be avoided until marriage, how is that good for intimacy, emotional intimacy? And I'm saying that this can create a negative mindset that persists even after marriage. So imagine that if these teachings shaped your perception of sex, would you feel free to enjoy it, or would you feel guilty? So if the message from the church is don't have sex, like my first question should be, as a normal human being, why? What is it? Like, what's the big thing here? Let's talk. Let's have this intimate interaction where you talk to me about this thing, not come from a space of intensity and don't do it. Intensity, by the way, is the opposite enemy of intimacy. So again, I'm not saying that sex before marriage is right. I'm just saying that how we present this message. To stand in a group full of people, don't have sex before marriage. Here's the ring, take the ring, Like, but we're not talking about this issue. There's no intimacy or connectedness throughout that experience. And obviously, if we have to talk to people about this stuff, it would need to be age appropriate and relevant to where that specific child or young person would find themselves, whether they're a teenager or young people. There's a saying that a pastor often reminds me of is, if you speak to your child about sex at 8, it's too late. 8 is too late. That he says we have to do this at an earlier stage, or as early as possible, as age appropriate as possible. I do absolutely believe in that, so that it's a close communication. Sex is a wonderful, beautiful gift from God. I said in the previous, but many people don't feel like that because it's like, don't have this beautiful gift from God. Obviously, that's the message, but maybe the approach should be different. That's the point that I'm making. So what's the psychological and emotional impact of coming from a dizzy height like that? Um, and creating the sense of guilt and intensity and shame. I think guilt and shame can have profound psychological and emotional impacts on the person. So if I am not allowed to do this thing and I'm experiencing it, maybe in teenage years, there's going to be a massive amount of guilt. And that level of guilt, anxiety, depression, whatever emotional trauma, shame stays often after a person has married and they are allowed to experience everything that is sexual now. Because the whole life they've been bombarded with don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, that when the opportunity comes, they don't know how to have that open emotional discussion that is inviting and bringing people together with an intimate partner. So I think that the feelings of guilt and shame can also become barriers between you and your partner. That's the point that I'm discovering or making. And this would make it more difficult to connect on a deeper level. Um, so, yeah, sex is beautiful, it's awesome, it's fantastic. It belongs in a long term committed relationship. And if you're Christian, that is absolutely marriage. It's being married to somebody. And in that married or marriage, to bring in emotional closeness and connection, connectedness, where we can talk about the sexual experience. So, what would be the impact on your marriage if you struggled with shame and guilt around sexual um, issues? If you struggle with that before the time, would you be able to talk about it? And maybe that would be more difficult. Do you think it could be more difficult? So, how do we overcome guilt and shame? So, healing from guilt and shame starts with understanding and empathy. Again, it involves recognizing the feelings that we're feeling, the guilt and the shame is not from God. Um, God created sex to be something beautiful, awesome, and a good gift for marriage. But if we carry this heavy shame and guilt about it, we cannot access the beauty that God has given us in marriage. So, open communication with your partner about your feelings can and will help you build trust and intimacy. This is super hard, mainly because of the type of society that we've been living in. So, if you could imagine your relationship free from shame and guilt, how much more fulfilling and connected would it be? And in that shame and guilt, I think at the core of that, one level deeper, lies judging myself. Judging myself, what would your life look like without judging yourself? Um, so some practical steps to overcome these emotions would include seeking counseling, speaking to someone about it that's professional and knows what they're talking about, joining support groups, and reframing your understanding of sex as a mutual joyful experience and not just a one-sided thing. So guilt and shame have no place in a healthy sexual relationship. Cannot Healthy sexual relationship cannot flourish with guilt and shame at its core. So here at Grace Online, I absolutely believe in empowering couples to reclaim the gift of sex as it was intended by God, free from negative emotions and full of joy and connection. So if you're ready to take the first step, please reach out to me and we can help you to heal from the impact of betrayal trauma towards healthy sexuality. So we would like to transform your relationship and bring true healing. So thanks for listening to me today. Please don't forget next time, tomorrow, as we are going to be exploring a little bit further whilst redefining what healthy sexuality may look like, um, and also what the marital roles would be like, and the expectations for healthy sexual relationship. Until then, please take care and remember, healing is absolutely within reach. And yeah, keep going. So trust God, and one step in front of the other. Hope and healing to everybody that has listened to this live stream today. Thank you.